This is just an ordinary sheet of paper, but in fact it was the very first physical music medium.
In the 18th century, there were no streaming services, iPods, or even vinyl records. However, people were listening to music and even shared it. It was possible thanks to notes. Musicians, in a way, were like living music players.
So how did it work? When a princess wanted to hear music or make some dance party, she would take sheet of papers with music, gather all the musicians, hand them notes and ask to play a specific track. Not as simple like today, right?
A lot of time passed between the first appearance of music and the invention of sound recording. In fact, we have only been recording music for the past couple of hundred years, and there has always been some form of physical medium.
In this video, let's talk about the evolution of physical formats. We'll dive into the history of music mediums, from the very beginning all the way to the present day. My name is Dmitry Cymbal, let's get started.
Music has always existed, even in ancient times, but we couldn't record it except by capturing it in some form or place. You didn't have to be with pen and paper, you could even scratch a picture of music onto the wall of your cave.
Now let's get into a bit of physics. No worries, it's not rocket science, so I'll explain it in a simple way. In 1831, Michael Faraday discovered how to convert magnetism into electricity. His research led to the scientific foundations for later inventions like the microphone, telephone and radio. Thanks to Faraday, people learned how to transmit sound, but there was still one problem: they didn't know how to record it.
In 1877, while working on improvements to the telegraph, Thomas Edison theorized that sound vibrations could be captured and later reproduced. He sketched a device that used a needle to make indentations on some soft material, like tinfoil or wax. So, how did it work? Sound waves were captured by a diaphragm connected to a stylus. The stylus etched the vibrations onto a tinfoil-covered cylinder as it rotated. And to play it back, the process was reversed. The needle traced the grooves vibrating the diaphragm and recreating the sound.
Edison spoke into it and was amazed when it played his words back to him. The first sentence ever recorded and played back in history was "Mary had a little lamb."
Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
This device was called the phonograph, and it inspired all the inventions that followed: gramophones, turntables, and more.
10 years later, a German-American inventor named Emil Berliner patented the gramophone. The principle was similar to Edison's phonograph, but instead of using cylinders wrapped in foil or wax, gramophones used flat discs made from materials like hard rubber or shellac, and later vinyl.
Flat discs were cheaper, more durable, easier to store, and perfect for mass production. This made the record industry possible, allowing people to buy and listen to music at home. However, there was one issue: sound quality. People began thinking, how can we improve the sound, reduce noise, and make playback more consistent? That's when vinyl turntables come into play.
In the 1920s and 1930s, the invention of electric motors led to the creation of electric turntables. Now rotation was steady and powered by electricity. The first vinyl record was introduced in 1948 by Columbia Records. Vinyl plastic was lighter, more durable and quieter than earlier materials. And the capacity was increased. That was a big leap, up to 20 or 30 minutes per side.
Vinyl records are made by pressing heated vinyl between two metal stampers that contain the music grooves. These stampers are created from a master disc, which is cut from the original recording. After cooling and trimming, the record is ready to spin on a turntable.
Since the principle of capturing sound from grooves remains the same, meaning the needle traces the waveform and reproduces the sound, this method comes with physical limitations. For example, you won't hear much deep bass. That's because it's intentionally reduced. Too much bass can cause the needle to jump or distort the playback. That's why bass on vinyl is usually tighter and more controlled compared to digital. There are also loudness limitations. Louder recordings need to be cut at lower volumes to avoid distortion or skipping. Plus, loud cuts require wider grooves, which take up more space on the record and reduce overall playtime.
Because of these limitations, many listeners say that vinyl offers a more natural, warm sound that is especially pleasant to the ears. In 1950s to 1970s, the home hi-fi era was born. Audio technology has been improved with magnetic cartridges, precision tone arms, anti-skate mechanisms. People began collecting records and building home audio systems for personal enjoyment.
While vinyl was dominating the consumer market, another revolution was quietly taking place in 1930s Germany. Engineer Fritz Fleumer patented the concept of the first magnetic tape. German companies AEG and BASF turned that idea into a working product. BASF developed a durable plastic-based tape, acetate coated with iron oxide, while AEG created the first tape recorder, called the magnetophone, which debuted in 1935. The world didn't know about this innovation right away. During World War II, Nazi Germany used the system for pre-recorded radio broadcasts that sounded live. After the war, American engineers brought the magnetophone to US. One of them, John T. Mullin, introduced it to Bing Crosby, who quickly adopted tape recording for his radio shows. This move jump-started the tape revolution in the United States.
So what are the main differences between vinyl and magnetic tape formats? First of all, longer recordings. You could record over an hour. The second point is editing. You could literally cut and splice the tape. And the third is reusability. Unlike vinyl, reel-to-reel tape recorders allowed you to erase your tape and record again. So, while vinyl delivered music to the masses, magnetic tape gave artists and engineers the freedom to record, edit and create like never before. Engineers loved tape for its editing capabilities, high fidelity and ability to record multiple takes. By the 1950s, reel-to-reel tape recorders became standard in studios and eventually found their way into homes, forming the foundation of modern multi-track recording.
Reel-to-reel tape offered great sound quality, but it was bulky, fragile and tricky to use. Not exactly user-friendly for everyday people. That's when a game-changing idea came from Philips.
In 1963, Philips introduced the compact cassette, a small portable tape cartridge with magnetic tape inside a protective plastic shell. Unlike open reels, it was easier to load, pocket-sized and safe from dust and fingerprints. And exactly this physical media has opened a world of music to me in my childhood. By the way, let me know in the comments what the connection between a compact cassette and a pencil.
At first, the compact cassette wasn't intended for music. It was developed for dictation machines. One of such machines was Philips EL3300, released alongside the cassette itself. It was a portable mono recorder, mainly designed for voice memos and dictation. The sound quality wasn't great for music. Early tapes and mechanisms had limited frequency range and noticeable noise. But thanks to constant improvements in tape technology, the cassette quickly found its way into music culture. By the 1970s, innovations like Dolby noise reduction, metal tape support and auto-reverse made cassettes suitable for music playback and home recording.
Audio manufacturers started producing high-fidelity stereo cassette decks aimed at serious music lovers. Brands like Nakamichi, Marantz and Sony built some truly legendary machines, and I'm sure you or your parents had one at home. But what was next? Compact cassette was very convenient and popular media. You could easily share your favorite music with friends, record your own mixes, listen in the car and more. And people started wondering, if we have a pocket-sized cassette, can we have a pocket-sized player too? And that's how Sony Walkman was born.
In 1979, Sony revolutionized how we listen to music with the Walkman, the first truly compact cassette player for personal use. The idea came from Sony co-founder Masaru Ibuka, who often traveled and wanted a lightweight portable way to enjoy his favorite operas on flights. He asked Sony audio department to modify one of their existing portable cassette recorders, and as a result, the first Sony Walkman was released in July 1979. It was pocket-sized and even had dual headphones jacks, so two people could listen to music together. Sony promoted it with the slogan, "This is the product that lets you enjoy high-quality music anytime, anywhere, even while walking."
At first, Sony wasn't sure the Walkman would sell, because the first model came without a recorder. But it became a massive global hit, especially with young people. The way of interacting with music completely changed. Now it could be mobile and personal.
After the Walkman's success, portable cassette players became a global obsession throughout the 80s and 90s. They showed up in movies, ads, and music videos, quickly becoming icons of cool. Some models came with auto-reverse, allowing continuous playback without flipping the tape. Others combined radio tuners with cassette playback. Sony even made solar-powered Walkmans and sport editions that were water-resistant.
There were so many different models from all kinds of brands, making cassette players affordable and accessible. Pretty much everyone had one. Even I had a couple of them, and yes, I used to secretly listen to music during school lessons. Sony officially discontinued the cassette Walkman in 2010, marking the end of an era after over 30 years. But let's rewind to the 80s, a time when a new physical format came along that was almost ideal. It promised crystal clear sound, no background noise, and no need to rewind. Of course, I'm talking about the compact disc.
In the late 70s, the music industry was looking for a better, cleaner format, one that could eliminate the hiss of tape and the pops and scratches of vinyl. The answer came through a revolution in digital technology. Two tech giants, Sony and Philips, joined the forces in 1979 to develop a brand new format, the compact disc. The first commercial CD was released in Japan in October 1982, followed by Europe and the US in 1983. So, how does it work? First, analog music is digitized through a process called sampling. That's where an ADC, which stands for Analog to Digital Converter, transforms the audio signal into a digital sequence. Then a laser encodes this data into a spiral track of tiny pits and lands on the disc's surface. During playback, a DAC or digital to analog converter reads this digital data and converts it back to analog sound for your ears. Because it records digital data, the sound on CD is clean, consistent, and resistant to physical wear, unlike vinyl or tape. CDs were a leap forward in sound quality, but they had a weakness.
Unlike vinyl, where the needle physically follows a groove, CDs rely on a laser to read digital data from a reflective surface, and if that surface gets scratched, the laser can lose its place. Even a single scratch in the wrong spot could cause skips or dropouts. While error correction systems helped, many of us remember trying to clean, buff, or even breathe on a CD to save our favorite albums. By the way, the first album ever released on CD was 52nd Street by Billy Joel.
When CDs hit the market in the early 80s, they were mostly played on home stereo systems. Early CD players were large, expensive, and typically built into hi-fi components. But they quickly became a symbol of high-end audio, delivering cleaner sound than cassettes or vinyl, with no hiss, no clicks, and no need to flip sides. As the technology improved, Sony released the first portable CD in 1984, calling it the Discman, which was later rebranded as the CD Walkman. Now you could take your digital music on the go, but early models had one big issue.
Skipping. Even small movements could interrupt the laser, so early Discman had to be used carefully. In the 90s, companies added anti-skip protection using digital buffers of 10 to 60 seconds. That finally made portable CD players practical for jogging, commuting, or even biking. Portable CD players remained popular until the early 2000s, but they slowly started to fade with the rise of MP3 players and flash storage.
The MP3 format was a game changer. It allowed music to be compressed without losing too much quality, making the file small enough to store and transfer digitally. but still sound good to human ears. MP3s exploded in popularity thanks to file sharing, CD ripping, and portable players. But most players were clunky, had tiny storage, and confusing interfaces. That all changed in October 2001, when Steve Jobs presented the first pocket-sized device with a mechanical scroll wheel, a clear interface, and 5 GB of storage.
And that product is called iPod.
The slogan was 1000 songs in your pocket. The iPod wasn't just another MP3 player, it completely changed how we listen to music, offering massive storage, user-friendly design, and true portability without compromise. And with the launch of the iTunes Store in 2003, it made buying digital music legal, easy, and accessible, reshaping the entire music industry. You might not believe it, but iPods still have a fan base nowadays. Even I'm thinking about picking one up in 2025.
The iPod was more than a gadget. It was Apple's answer to messy, confusing MP3 players. Sleek, minimal, and instantly recognizable, it became a true cultural icon, often called the Walkman of the 2000s. With its wide earbuds, intuitive click wheel, and signature design, the iPod made music personal, stylish, and mobile like never before. It changed how we listen, how we buy, and how we organize music. Everyone became their own DJ, creating playlists to match moods, memories, and moments. If you'd like a full video of the history of the iPod, let me know in the comments.
And then came the next chapter we all know. The era of streaming began, and all mentioned in this video physical media disappeared from the mainstream. We have come a long way from fragile grooves on vinyl to magnetic tape, to laser discs, to invisible files floating in the cloud. Each format brought us closer to the music, making it more portable, more personal, and more present in our daily lives. Every format tells its own story. Not just a story of technology, but a story of how we connect with sound. And in the end, it's not about the format, it's always about the music. What was your first music format? Was it an iPod, a stack of vinyl or cassettes? Drop a comment below, I'd love to hear your story. Thanks for watching and good luck!